Mr. White, welcome back to term 2.
Wow, term two. How are you? How's the break?
Oh my goodness. I thought it would never end. It just went on and on and on. Thank goodness for me, it's over and I can just get back to work.
It's always the way with holidays in school, isn't it? It's just 2 weeks is just
they
way
just
too
drag
long.
on forever. It's just too long. Gosh, well, how do you even fill it up?
I don't know. I don't know how people do it. I don't know.
If we're being honest, obviously I'm heading back to work, but you're actually only one week into your holidays. So yes, I feel a bit more rested than you. So you've had the age-old end of term 1 crash, haven't you?
I have the whole family. So you get to the end of the term and you've been fighting off and you've been putting on a brave face for so long, and then finally the pressure's off and the body falls down and you get a bit crook. The whole family has had a bit of this. So I'm a little
joined you
cranky,
on the journey,
but I can see the end now. Feeling good now. Feeling good.
Yeah. So you'll have one more week to piece yourself back together after everything falls off. I lost my voice in the first week of the holidays. It had been hanging by a thread, but as you can, the sweet sounds are back. I've lubricated it consistently throughout the holidays, and I am back in the driver's seat, ready for another great term.
That's the spirit. That's what we want to hear.
So I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Video Pro, for joining and supporting Teachers Change Lives podcast. And welcome all of the teachers who are joining us today from around the world, any of those assistant teachers, administrators, university lecturers, all of those amazing people working in schools, changing lives.
It's all about changing lives. Teachers change lives. It's what we do. It's what we're here for. Is we are trying to shine a positive light on what teachers do and how important education is, but also how fun it can be.
Yes, it can be. And it was wonderful over the holidays to actually see that Egypt and Malaysia have got involved in the fun. The numbers came in, and it turns out that the people of Malaysia and Egypt are loving Teachers Change Lives. So we we've hit the charts. So we're here to blow our own horns. We have hit the charts in Egypt at number 225.
225. Look at that.
It's
top 250.
Kind of a big deal. That's right. But in Malaysia, we've actually hit the top 62.
Top 62?
Coming in. Yeah, I know it's going to rock your world. In the top 62, we've actually come in at 62. And
okay, scraped into the top 62, but nonetheless, top 62.
That's right.
Well,
that's where the countdown starts.
That's great. They love their education over there in Malaysia. Fantastic.
They do. So lovely to have people from all around the world joining us. And Mr. White and I have been working very hard in these past holidays to do a number of pre-recordings of some really cool interviews. We are, spoiler alert, we are going international.
Yes, we are.
So we've had some very privileged interviews with some really cool people from around the world who are doing some great things in education and share our vision and passion for loving teachers.
Education.
So stay tuned for all of those.
Doesn't matter what culture, doesn't matter what language. Teaching and learning is about relationships, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're building on, and that's why we're going to strike a note everywhere.
That's right. So we're going to talk about spiraling upwards. Start of a term. What's our focus for the start of the term?
So for the start of term for this week, we've got a question that I'm putting to you now, Shaz. What is one small delight in the teaching week that you look forward to?
Oh, my goodness.
Well,
it is a great one. So there are a number of things that I enjoy, which is the coffee on the way to work. There's also the morning tea coffee and the lunchtime coffee, all of the coffees. But I think that the one thing in particular that will help me to get out of bed on Monday morning for the start of term 2 will be knowing that I will get to wave the students in. So I go down to the front of the building each day and greet the students, and it's a good opportunity for the parents to come up and say hi and let me know anything that's happening with their kid. But getting to greet each student by name as they come in, give them a high five or a fist bump, tell them how great it is to see them, and seeing their little faces light up, or letting me know what they did on the weekend. It's going to be great to hear what they did on the holidays and share those stories first thing, and make sure that they are, swaggering it back into school, all ready for a great term
How
too.
good's that?
How about you? What's your
that relationship? You're welcoming them back to school. It's not even in the classroom or anything like that. You're just, good to see you. Welcome back. Good to have you back.
Just letting them know that I know you, and
yes.
I couldn't be more delighted to see you and have you back here, and I've missed you.
I see you, I know you, and I want you around. Fantastic. Very, very positive. Mine,
How about you?
I'm lucky enough to be a head of house, and once a week we have a house meeting. So every Thursday morning, a quarter of the school gathers in this room, and I get to facilitate the meeting, and it's great because I get to work with the student leaders, the captains of the house, or whatever captains are involved that day, and help them talk to the house, build up motivation, talk about what's on the horizon, build up anticipation, and get the planning done so we can really roll into these events and enter the house competitions full of pride and full of preparedness and ready for battle. So I really love that. It's a really energetic way of starting the day on a Thursday morning. That's what I look forward to every week.
Beautiful. That's great. And I'm assuming then if kids know what brings you joy, so if they know that you're excited to be at that meeting and that you're bringing the energy and the fun, then they meet you.
That's right. They do. And my students know the one thing that brings me joy is winning. But in particular, beating one house in particular.
Oh, what's the rival house?
Andrews. I don't get along well with Andrews. So
they sound like trouble.
They are trouble. They are shady characters. Anytime we beat them is a good day. But it's all fun. It's all it's great. The house system is brilliant. It's a very, very important cornerstone of any school, I think. It's always fun to beat Andrews.
Excellent. Well, we'll track that journey throughout the term. Obviously, we'll hear about the wins and hopefully none of the losses, and just pulverizing Andrews as the term progresses.
Can do.
Looking forward to it. All right, so we're going to kick off the start of the term with a beautiful magical moment that has been sent in by a listener. So let me just play the sting.
That's beautiful. This magical moment has been sent in. My magical moment happened just before the end of term. A young lady in Year 8 transferred from another school. Her whole life she's been in a manual wheelchair. I worked with the family, including home visits, talking about ways to give this young lady more independence. It's a long process to do NDIS, so the dad found a second-hand motorised chair. On the day he put her in the chair at school, for the first time she took off with the word freedom. Since then, I see her playing Tiggy with her friends, participating in Colour Run, and just being a teenager, a real heart-melting moment. Spectacular. That idea of inclusion and involvement, it is so important in life, not just in education, but in life. That's a wonderful one. Thank you so much for sending it in.
And so that's been sent in from Megan, who's a head of special education services, and that's like literally full body goosebumps. Yeah. That is life-changing for that student to be able to just get involved playing Tiggy. Oh, bless her. And
I love the word freedom.
I can freedom.
In inverted commas, it's hard to demonstrate that when you're reading it out, but took off with the word freedom. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's beautiful. Awesome. And thank you so much to all of those inclusion teachers there around Australia and around the world. You are doing amazing work for these students and their families. And so thank you. And thanks for sending that in, Megan.
Absolutely.
All right. Have you got a wisecrack for us to kick off?
Of course I do.
Yes.
Of course.
You've always got a wisecrack. All right, prepare yourself and get ready to rumble.
What is Weekly Wisecracks? What do you got, Mr. White?
Well, yes, this is a good one. This one happened this term, actually, first term, actually, Year 7 English class, and we're talking about expressions and phrases and those sorts of things that get bandied around in community, but people don't really know what they mean or where they came from. So we were talking about, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. What does that mean? Like, no one could actually eat a horse, and why would someone want to? Those sorts of things. We don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Those sorts of things. And I was explaining, we were talking about a few of them, and I said to the students, look, I don't want to sound like a broken record. And I thought, hang on a second. You've never had a record player, because these are Year 7s in 2023.
Yes,
they don't know
of
what a
course.
record player is. So I said, you don't know what that means. 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 You don't know what that means.
Oh, wait, there we go.
Yes, laughter instead of booze. Oh, I knew that one would get you, Shaz. I knew that one would get you.
That's
I
good.
told you it was a good one this week.
And they really wouldn't still have a clue what you're talking about, but that's great.
You don't know what that means.
I always hope that you've got an assistant teacher or a teacher aide in the back of your classroom just so they can get it with you. But I know you well enough to know that you don't need anyone else to get it.
I don't.
You're enough.
For me. It's just for me.
It is just
Although
for you.
Since the start of this podcast, I have started employing someone to sit at the back of the room and just take notes and just, write down verbatim the pearls of wisdom that I'm dropping and the comedy gold that is just issuing from my mouth.
Excellent. And maybe play the giggle sting as well, just so that you can hear that laughter in there as well.
I don't need it. I can perform to dead silence. Not a problem. It's easy when the only person you have to impress is yourself.
Yourself. It's a beautiful thing. It's a safe space. A very safe space.
Safe space for me, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well done, Mr. White. I'm looking forward to hearing more of that comedy gold.
Yes, I've got a few of them. What about a teaching tale?
I've got a ripper that has been sent in. Here we go.
Spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching tales. Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Here we go. A prep child approached me to tell me that her friend said the F word. I brought the other child over and began to hear all sides of the story. They were both very, very upset. One was upset because her friend swore, and the other because she felt that she was being wrongly accused of swearing. The second child, the alleged swearer, went on to tell me the F word was not a swear word, and she has always been allowed to say it. Delving a little deeper, I finally discovered that the F word was in fact fat and was used to describe a toy pig that they had been playing with. So then I had a new issue in trying to explain in what context fat may or may not be an appropriate adjective.
Toy pig.
You hadn't even called each other fat. It was just saying that this toy pig is fat.
I was thinking, obviously that can be offensive, and that's another issue, but it's a toy pig. It's a toy pig. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
Yes, so it's okay to call that toy pig fat, but it's not okay to call your friend fat or...
No.
It's a beautiful thing. Just respect out there to the prep teachers, the prep teacher aides. You are doing God's work. So thank you. Your magicians, I don't know how you're doing it, but it's I have. Oh no! Seriously, I had one child and I couldn't wrangle him, and you wrangle like 25 of them all in the one place, and they follow your instructions.
I'll tell you what, though,
miracle workers.
But you're the ones with the stories. You are the ones with the absolute gold. Those stories are hilarious when little kids are involved.
Yep, they are
spectacular.
They are. All right, we are adding in another segment.
Yes, we are.
And the segment is called we want to give you some teaching tips.
Yes.
We are not, I don't want to downplay, so we are experts because we're experts in our own classroom, both have made a significant impact in the lives of children that we've both worked with. We're not on any touring circuit, so I guess we're giving tips of things that work, that we know work. And so take them or leave them, but we have been requested to share some teaching tips. So thinking about the first, going into the second term, Mr. White, what have you got? What's a piece of educational gold that you can share with our listeners?
It's funny, and I'm sure that the higher education has changed a fair bit since I went through university and did my dip eds, and then sure, it's master now. But you would have done some more than I did. But I was pretty much just thrown in. So I was thinking, okay, well, what would I want to have known when I started teaching? Like, what did I do the hard way that I really didn't have to? And one thing that really stuck me was around the idea of planning. So I don't like making rigid lesson plans. That's not the way I roll. If a class goes in a certain direction and I see an educational opportunity, I want to grab that with two hands. I want to have the freedom to be able to do that while maintaining, obviously you've got to stay on the curriculum as much as you can as well. So I wanted to come up with a way of planning that is flexible enough to allow for that sort of thing in class, but make sure I hit all the, all the checklists and the milestones.
Learning objectives. Yeah.
So all these weekly planners, they're weekly, and they can either be in too much detail or not enough detail. So what I do at the start of every term is for every class, map out every lesson. So I make a little table on Microsoft Word, this little table, and for every little square is a lesson. I put the date in it, I put the lesson number, just so I know when it is, all that sort of thing. And then I mark out any long weekends or swimming carnival, athletics carnival, because teaching week is never a full teaching week. There's always something going on.
No.
Year 7 immunisations we had last week, and so I lost a lesson for that. So it's just all these things that just come up. So you want to block them out, make sure you've blocked them out. But then what I do is I'll put the assessment, the absolute deadline for the assessment, then I'll move it back one lesson to give myself one lesson spare, and then from there work back and say, okay, well, how many lessons do I need to get them ready for this? And that way I feel in control. I've got a nice bird's eye view of where the students are, what the class is going to be about, any sort of things that come up in the way that I want to get around. And it's a really good way of just having a bird's eye view. And if I knew that when I started teaching, I think I would have been more effective more quickly. This is great for younger year levels. So year 7, my year 7s, I do it all the time because they've got a weekly spelling test. They've got weekly grammar exercises they have to do. So I budget them in. The last lesson of every week, we have our spelling test. We have the deadline for the grammar unit, all that sort of thing that you can just put in. And you'll be surprised how quickly that fills up. Like the lessons just
it does
really, really quickly.
And if you don't plan ahead like that, so this is, I guess, being conscious of it rather than hoping that the lessons that you've got ahead of you, that you're going to have them. So and hope's not a strategy. So it is actually looking at the reality of that and what time do I actually have? And then that allows you to make the most of that time, and it would keep you more on the straight and narrow, so that you know when I can go on a tangent and when do I need to stay back here. Absolutely.
And look, you've got to build in some redundancy because there's an evacuation drill that just happens to be during the lesson that I set aside as their last lesson for before an assessment or whatever. But you've got to build in redundancy. And look, if you get it all done a little bit early, awesome. You've got a lesson to work on anything that you think is
on retrieval practice, which
brilliant.
We know is the most important thing. Let's start to draw some of the things back. We know it takes 24 to 40 repetitions of something before you actually learn it. So don't be afraid to go over content that you've already gone over. In fact, it's absolutely imperative for you to go over things that you've gone over before. Don't ever be scared to do that. That's really important stuff.
Absolutely. So that's my teaching tip. Just it's not a groundbreaker, but for me, if I'd learned that earlier, come up with a plan that works for you, that you can step back, have a bird's eye view of where you're going with your class, and then the lessons sort of take care of themselves.
Love it. Just because we've got time, I am going to share one as well, actually. So we've done lots of interviews over these holidays, and it's great to see this recurring theme that we've talked about keep on coming up about relationships. And kids don't learn from people they don't like. The amazing Rita Pearson said that, and it's absolutely true. If you we've talked with some people about getting some I was about to say collateral, but relationship collateral. So kids won't take redirections from people that they don't know or they don't like or that they don't respect. So it's really, really important that you have that relationship with a student before you can start to give them feedback. And the whole point of teaching is to be able to give students feedback and give them those corrections and the refining. But they won't take those corrections from you unless they have some sort of relationship with you.
Yeah.
What we know is that in term 2, you know your students. But you don't have, so you know them all, but you don't have the same relationship with all of them. So we can pretend that all students are equal and that we have the same relationship with every single one of them. But the reality is that we just don't. So I came across this awesome strategy quite a few years ago that I enact every week. So I've always got a particular student in mind that I am using my 2 for 5, 2 for 5, 2 for 5, 5 for 2,
5 for 2,
5 for 2, not 2 for 5, 5 for 2. So it is for 5 days straight for 2 minutes each day. I am going to have a student that I'm going to have one-on-one conversation with. So we are going to just talk. I'm going to ask them questions about themselves. I'm going to find them in the playground. I'm going to walk with them to class. They're going to be in my class lined up, and I'm going to make sure that I have a 2-minute conversation with them, just asking them a question about themselves, telling them something about me, following on from something I've talked to them about the day before, complimenting them on something, appreciating something, acknowledging something. But it has to happen on consecutive days, because on the first day, if I don't have a relationship with this student, often the first day is really awkward for both of us. Let's be honest. They're like, why are you giving me this? Why is the light shining on me right now? This is awkward. Just why are you asking these questions and pretending that you're interested in me? But then you go back the next day and they're like, she's back again. Like, she wants to know more about me. Okay. By the third day, they're really loosening up and they're starting to see, this person really cares about me. And by the 4th and 5th day, that relationship has now been really quite consolidated, because now they just know, she now knows these things about me, and we're going to have this ongoing conversation. And it's definitely transformed some relationships that I've had with students, but it had to be, for some students, the relationship just comes really easily. And you find there's the meeting of the minds, the same. Do you find that there's some students that,
they're people, we're people. I mean, there are people that you just naturally gravitate to. There's a similarity in sense of humor or outlook or whatever it is. Interests, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a great way of getting to know the students that don't have that initial click, that are a little bit more challenging. Do you do it one at a time religiously, or could you do a couple at a time if you wanted to really catch
You
up?
could go a couple at a time. And I would think probably if I was a secondary school teacher and I've got my 5 classes. So when I was a full-time teacher, unfortunately, I didn't learn this strategy when I was a full-time teacher. I've only learned it since I moved into I was a head of department, and that was when I learned it. So I was teaching 3 classes then and leading for the other during the other time. So for those 3 classes, I always had that one student in each of those classes that I was focusing in on to try to deepen that relationship.
Yeah, great. It's a fantastic piece of advice. Particularly, I teach a few, like geography is an elective for year 8s and year 10. So I teach them. So I only really get to know them for a semester. And I often find at the end of the semester that I don't know the students as well as I would like. You know, bigger classes, the whole thing. And, I've got senior classes that I'm, not focusing on more, but focusing on more, to be honest. But that's a really good way to get to know every student in the group. And look, I know every student.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how well I know them. And you can't teach effectively unless you know the student. And it's not just about the trust and the knowledge. It's also knowing them, how they learn. That's really important. So that's a fantastic piece of advice. What a great teaching tip. Gee, we're off to a flyer.
Oh, thank you. You too, Mr. White. Yes, exactly. Let's see if we can maintain this standard. That's great.
That's going to be difficult.
There's always a bit of wisdom that we can be imparting to a colleague, most definitely. I know that quite a few of my permission to teach teachers will really latch on to what you've said, what your piece of advice was just then, which is great. So thank you.
And
that's
look,
great.
If anyone listening has a teaching tip that is groundbreaking for them and they'd like to share with other people, just if something that they wish they knew at the start of their career, let us know so we can share it and make this profession easier for everyone. And so we can go about the business of creating these relationships and teaching.
Because it's not easy.
It's not easy.
And we don't know it all, and that's okay.
No, lifelong learning, absolutely.
Yes. So we have had some pretty cool communication from some listeners.
Comms. You with the lingo.
Yeah, okay. So I had a moment on the last day of the term, Mr. White. I had my Uber driver asked me if I was okay as he was driving me home from the end of term drinks.
I like that you got an Uber home. Very good.
Obviously, safety first. And I was sitting in the back of the Uber at about 10:30 on the last day of the term. I'd officially lost my voice at this stage, and I was utterly exhausted. And as you do, as I do anyway, pulled out my phone and was checking my work email and then checked my Teachers Change Lives podcast email. And there was an email sitting there from one of our listeners that resulted in me just breaking down into uncontrollable sobs and totally lost it. And my Uber driver, bless his cotton socks, hi Kuma, he said, he did. He got $5 for this. He's like, he wanted to know if I was okay and if there was anything he could do to help. Unfortunately, I had lost my voice, so I couldn't actually communicate appropriately to him that I was okay, but he could hear my sobs.
Sign language, you nodded and gave a thumbs up.
I was also pretty drunk at the time, so it was just an absolute mess. But I do just want to share what just was just the best end of term moment. So they were tears of happiness. They weren't tears of sadness. So I'm going to read out this email that was sent through to you and I, Mr. White. So it says, "Hello, Mrs. Angel and Mr. White. I'm reaching out because I stumbled across your podcast and I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a mature-aged 45-year-old, third year education students. We love 45-year-olds. I have worked as a teacher's aide for the past 2 years, and your podcast has given me some much-needed rekindling of inspiration and passion. So this is my journey so far. I've put off doing an education degree for many years, partly because I was on another path and wasn't sure how to jump off. I did a business communications degree straight out of school, worked for a few years, and then did the early childhood thing in my mid-20s. I worked in the sector for a while before gaining a Cert 4 TAE, so training and assessor, and working as a trainer and assessor. But more so, I didn't know how I would afford to take time off for practical placement or where I would find the time to study, work, be a present wife and mum, or how my mental health would cope. But here I am in my third year doing 6 units per year. It's tough, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I may or may not be counting down the units, but this is my new normal for now. Only a couple more years to go. I really wanted to reach out because working in a school environment and having done practical placement, I hear so many perceived negative things from teachers, like get out while you can, so you're not scared off yet, say goodbye to weekends and evenings, teaching will consume every moment of your life, etc., things like that. So to top that off, I constantly hear about burnout and how half of all new graduates leave the profession in the first 5 years. However, I have my own mind and conceptions, and I really do strive to ignore the pessimism and gloom, albeit hard when you hear it so regularly. However, all of this talk and negativity led me to find the Teachers Change Lives podcast. I know this despondency is precisely what you're trying to extinguish from the narrative, so thank you for continuing to hold the torch for the profession that I will soon be entering. It has been so refreshing to listen to your podcast, hearing the positive teaching tales and magical moments, the magical stories, Whitey's Weekly Wisecracks. They all help to lift my spirit and brighten the smile on my face. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for helping to keep my flame alight and for everything else that you do. All the best and take care. Justine, who is from Brisbane.
That's it. We can pack up and
We're done.
The one thing. Touch. Put a positive spin on it for one person. That's tick.
Exactly what we were trying to do. Exactly. So thank you, Justine. I know you were sending an email to say thank you, but you have no idea how much after a really, really long term. Every term's a long term, and we talk about all of the teaching is amazing. It's the most amazing giving profession, and it's hard work. It's really, really hard work. And so receiving your email made a massive difference to me at the end of that term. And then the joy in getting to share that with Whitey the day after. He still had 1 week to go in his term at that stage. It was wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So it was so wonderful to be able to share that and know that we've made a difference. And we're so proud of you. Yes. Well done for choosing teaching first and foremost. And then that is a grind that you have been doing with everything else in your life. And I know lots of the assistant teachers who work at my school are also juggling family and study and all to be able to get on to this teaching pathway.
Yes,
so
but
stick with it.
Absolutely stick with it. The new normal, that's a great way to see it. It just is. You will do it. You will just do it. It will happen. You will do it. Keep us updated. Let us know what's going on. You've obviously you've hit a nerve with us, and we want to help you as much as we can. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us and the impact that hopefully we've had. It's lovely stuff. It really is. And this is what we want to do. We want teachers helping teachers as well.
So if there's anyone out there who's also started listening or has had something that's happened for them that's really kind of helped them to stick with it, if they've had a mentor, if they've had a colleague, if they've had a family member who's really helped them to stick with the plan of to become a teacher, please send us through that. Let us shout people out. We love to name and fame people to make sure that they know that they've made a big difference in your life. So keep choosing education, people. Absolutely. Keep coming on board. It really is the best profession.
It's the only profession that teaches all professions.
Exactly right. So if you have any great stories like that you want to email through to us, it is teacherschangelivespodcast@gmail.com, or they can get in contact with us by sending teaching tales or magical moments. Where can they send them through to, Whitey?
To the email address that you just said, or to Facebook?
Yes.
Correct. I haven't done the Facebook one before. Mine is the email. I can do the email.
I'm changing things up. Come on.
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, Teachers Change Lives Podcast.
You got it. That's exactly
and
right.
On TikTok, TCL Podcast.
You've got it. And we recently put a couple of TikToks out there requesting people to send in their teaching tales and magical moments. They were a big hit. So we would love, love, love to hear your teaching tales, magical moments. If you've got a wisecrack, we would love to hear it, and send any of those through. Just a little 1 to 2 minute video is great, or you can just email in a Word document or just a straight email, and we can just read it out on your behalf as well.
Yes, but it's easier just to record it. Just record it on your phone and send it in. 30 seconds a minute.
We do love to see your face. We really do love to see the faces.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also it just kind of breaks up our mugs on the screen as well.
Poor people on YouTube.
for punishment. So having said that, though, we look a lot better because Video
Yes.
Pro has given this beautiful lighting
Halo.
and our webcams.
You can see the
Yes.
halo shining in my glass there.
Oh, it's beautiful in your wine
Mm.
glass. Look at you go, Mr. White. So thank you so much to Video Pro, as always, for being
Thank you.
amazing sponsors of our show and caring about teachers by caring about us and this podcast. We are going to be back next week. So we'll have weekly podcasts for all of these next for the rest of this term. So keep on sending in your content, and Mr. White and I will share it with the world.
For that, absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you,
All right.
Mrs.
Well,
Angel.
wonderful to see you. So good to have you back for the term. Oh, well, I'm back.
Nope.
Mr. White's still on holidays for one more week. He deserves it. All of those teachers down in New South Wales and Melbourne and beyond. Good for you. Enjoy the last week of your holidays whilst us Queenslanders head back.
Enjoy week one. It's always exciting, week one.
We will. Awesome. All right. See everyone
See you,
next
everyone.
week. See you later, Mr.
See you,
White.
Mrs. Angel. Thank you.
Powered by Riverside.